Okay, 8.3, you're still doing the difference between means, but now they're dependent samples. Okay, example I'm going to use is on page 453, and it's to do with strength shoes. Okay, so here's the information they give you. They tested this group of people, their vertical jumps before working out with strength shoes and then after. Okay, but what are you testing here? Well, when the samples are dependent, you actually test the differences, or actually the mean of the differences, okay, before and after. Okay, so at some point we'll come back to, we're going to leave this example, but we'll come back to it. But one of the things you'll need to do, and I'll show you how to do that later, is you need to get these differences, okay? Because, again, you're testing the mean of the differences. So there's the actual mean of the differences. So if you add all those up and divide by 8, because there's 8 numbers, you get negative 1.75. Okay, so then we'll test that mean of the differences. So that's different, what we're doing. Okay, so, and just like always, what do you need to do the test? Well, you need your critical value and you need your test stat. Okay, here you're going to do inverse t and you're going to do t-test, not two sample. Now what you're doing, you're bringing it down to just one. In a sense, it's like one sample. Okay, there's two samples, right? You do the differences, now you got one sample. And now I should say one thing that's different here is this, that those differences actually look pretty good. You would think, okay, if they're increasing their vertical, you'd want positive numbers here. But remember, the before and after, you actually want a higher vertical, right? After. So when you do the subtraction, negatives are good. That actually shows an increase. That'll come up later. Now we're going to leave that example for a little bit because you actually, in the problems, you start out with problems 2 through 4, and they don't give you any data sets. What they give you is they just say, oh, here's a claim, and then here's some statistics, okay, and they also give you alpha. So I should have put that in, that they're also giving you alpha. That'll come into play down here, okay. But see, they give you the claim, and the first question they ask you, is it right-tailed, left-tailed, or two-tailed? Well, that's the claim, right? But see how it's greater than or equal? So the alternative, right, would be less than. So this one is, you'd say, okay, well, it's left-tailed. Even though they're telling me greater than or equal, it's left-tailed because that's the claim. The alternative would be less than left-tailed, okay? So then they give you these stats, right? Use those stats to run your t-test, right? You use alpha, which they'll give you to get your critical value, right? Because, right, you need two things, right, to do your test. You need your critical value and you need your test stat. Okay, so this works same as it always has. Okay, 0.01, degrees of freedom, you got to subtract 1. There's your test stat. Okay, it's left-tailed, so that's good, right? If it's right-tailed, it's plus. Remember, if it's two-tailed, you got to cut that in half. Okay, what about our test stat? Well, you go to t-test, and they've given you everything you need to enter in. Okay, so, but here's one thing that's always going to happen. You're going to do mu not is 0, right? You're testing if there's a difference. So, okay, so no difference would be 0. X bar, negative 2.8. There's your standard deviation. There's your sample size. But see, now X bar that's your D bar. The mean is the mean of the differences. The standard deviation is the standard deviation of the differences. And again, they're just giving you all of this, okay? So you don't have to do anything with lists. And then, of course, you're going down in your testing, right? Okay, well, there's my critical value. I get the test stat. Oh, it's over here. I fail to reject. And that's the second question you'll get is, should you fail to reject or reject the null hypotheses? So, what tail, fail or not, problems 2 through 4. Now in problems 5 through 9, okay, you'll actually get data. Like he'll give you this, right? Okay, but you'll need that. Okay, so what will you do in problems 5 through 9? Okay, so again, we're looking back at example 1 on page 453. You still need your critical value and test stat. You do inverse T and t-test to get those. Okay, but now how do you get that list 3? Here's what you do. So to get the test stat, okay, what you do is you first go to stat edit, put in list 1, list 2. So you'd put those in. Then to get this, what you do is you highlight list 3. Okay, right? Put your cursor over list 3 right here. And then just type in list 1 minus list 2, enter. Remember, list 1 and list 2 are above your 1 and 2 keys. And it will populate the list with these numbers. So now you got those differences. Okay? So now when you go to z-test, highlight data instead of stats. Still put in 0, but make sure you put in list 3 as your list. You know, calculate it. Okay. In this case, it's a left tail, right? You'd have to also say that. Okay, so it's left-tailed. Here's the test stat you get. Now you go through inverse T to get your critical value. In this case, we get a test stat that's to the left of the critical value, so we are going to reject the null hypotheses. So, do strength shoes work? Well, let's go back to the hypothesis statements. Okay, kind of going backwards now. The claim was that the difference is that there is a difference, right? It increases, right? So what we talked about is that numbers less than 0 are good, right? Because that actually shows a decrease. If my vertical jump was 20 and now it's 30, I've gone up 10. 20 minus 30 is negative 10, so that's good. So that's actually the claim, right? That the differences will be less than 0, the mean of the differences. Okay, so there's a null hypothesis would be the complement of that, right? Well, we just found that we're going to reject the null. That means we're okay with the claim. It's down here, right? So now we can use the word support. And we will support the claim that the strength shoes do increase your vertical jump.